You'll probably hear me now because I'm right here. Speaking.
I can't hear a word.
Nothing's happening yet. They're still gathering.
Oh, good. All right, I'm going to get dressed.
Yeah,
Tell me
okay.
when I need to. When it's starting. You want me to try to make you a little coffee or something?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if we have any more.
I gotta go to the bathroom
You
anyway.
can hear me just fine.
It's yours, right?
You can adjust like
So when they
noise
do
levels.
instant coffee, it's like also. Yeah.
Yes, if you're here, you can speak normally.
I think water may be heating now.
Can you turn off your sound, please?
What may be heating is heating to check the water in the pot. I may have started heating it. In the coffee pot? No, regular pot. There's none in it. In that pot, there's no water in there. There's no water in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jen says that people are parking pretty much ready to get me from how far away they're walking. But the lady gave me 5 minutes. I mean,
We're gonna go over 5 minutes.
so I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what the lady does.
Okay.
It's just one song in the beginning. So I don't have a stand. But there's a corner. I think I know where it's going.
what Charlie accomplished in his 31 years as unparalleled history of American comics founding era, and try to recently look.
Audie.
Are the words up there? Or should I bring a copy?
The words are up here.
Please find your seats. We will be beginning in about 2 minutes. Please find your seats.
Okay.
Can you please turn off your sound, those of you that are on Zoom?
Hello. We'd like to begin by inviting you to check your cell phones and your watches and make sure that your devices are turned off or in airplane mode. We're going to begin our program this afternoon with Psalm 23, which can be found in the program.
don't know what I did. Second. Oh, you speak.
I'm Rabbi Zoe Klein-Miles, but more importantly, I'm Jimmy and Gozi's daughter, Zach's sister. On behalf of my brother Zachary and Nicole, who is like a sister, and a daughter to our parents, my husband Scott, the grandkids Rocky, Kinneret, Zimra, Gavin, Nathaniel, and our mom, our family thanks all of you for being here. We are all walking through the valley of the shadow together, and each of you is a guiding star. A great Jewish sage once said, "Those are words that I've used countless times in sermons, articles, essays, eulogies, but what my congregation doesn't know is every time I say a great Jewish sage once said, I'm actually talking about my dad." At my heart, I'm still that little girl sitting at the foot of my father's desk, looking up at him while he worked. He would always turn the radio or the television volume low to hear whatever I had to say, like it was the most important thing in the world. And I treasure all of his teachings. Like when he drew the outline of a man for me and said, "This is a good drawing." And then he drew the outline of the man again, but this time the lines were perforated. And he said, "But this is a masterpiece." A masterpiece is all about the lines. You have to learn how to let the lines breathe. I love the story he told about when he taught drawing at Pratt. He would draw a line on the chalkboard with eyes and angry eyebrows on it, sharp and angry, and he would tell the students that this was the evil doctor line, set to destroy all art. And one day, after he had gone home, there was actually a tall, wiry man carrying a crowbar who came to campus asking, "Where is Mr. Grashow?" And the security asked, "Who's asking?" And he said, "I'm Dr. Line." So we know that Dr. Line is a real supervillain and that our father is a real superhero, a line tamer. He understood how to make lines breathe, allowing his innermost self to connect to your innermost self. He could do that with almost anyone, and really quickly too.
He could forge these incredible lifelong friendship unions, even in the hospital, hooked up to hydration and blood. He made extraordinary connections. We saw doctors and nurses come in with that professional aloofness, and within a few minutes, they were holding hands with our father, and they were in love. Abracadabra, sfumato. Lines were blended and feathered. Every now and then, but rarely, Dad did meet someone whose lines were so thick that he could not get them to open, and that really frustrated him. A great sage, Dad, once told me that one of the most important things a parent can give their children is access to themselves, letting them know the reasons why you're sad or angry or frustrated or excited, not to be closed off, drawing thick lines like walls. He let us into his heart and his soul. He let us explore with full access to his dreams and his fears. He didn't hide his feelings. He let us into his mind's workshop. Not only did we have a dad who worked from home, which was exceedingly rare at the time, we had access to him all the time, physically, emotionally, spiritually. He didn't draw any kind of line on his heart. There was the time that he had the little cut on his leg, this little line, and it hurt. And it turned out that there was an entire razor blade that had slipped smoothly into his skin, disappearing into his leg. And the time that an EMT found his ears were stuffed with sawdust and wood chips. His letters to us at sleepaway camp were filled with stories and drawings of weird bruises, jammed fingers, and cuts. He was literally that perforated outline of a man blending with the environment, a masterpiece. Growing up was like being Alice in Wonderland, if Wonderland was filled with razor blades, ridges of dried glue, open cans of turpentine, a sander, a bandsaw with no child lock, and splinters. I remember as a child going to Pratt with him a couple of times. I remember he opened the class by setting a kitchen timer and telling the students to fill as much of the page as possible before the timer went off. And the students would be at their easels scribbling wildly to fill the page, clouds of charcoal all around. And he was teaching them to be courageous. He was teaching them to not be afraid of the page, not to be imprisoned by lines. This summer, he received an email from a former student, Mark Mulheron. He received emails and letters all the time about how he changed the lives of his students and people he'd mentored, friends. And Mark wrote, "I was a student of yours at Pratt way back in 1979, a figure drawing class. You were a bright light. I recall some things from the class. Spraying dust on the model with a shop vac on blow mode to activate the space. And when you drew two identical spirals on the blackboard and challenged students to race with their chalk in the center to see who could draw their way out the fastest, every student followed the boundaries of the spiral, and you were like, no, no, no. You went up to the board, placed your chalk in the center, and just drew right across to get out, exposing the tyranny of boundary. That just blew my mind." Dad modeled courage, and Dad was so courageous. He could have taken the evil Dr. Line with his bare hands. Anytime something scary happened on TV or in a movie, our mom would scream, "Jimmy! Jimmy, do something!" He was really, really courageous. He once ran up to the stage of a theater to break up an actual fight between two people, and he was sitting in the back row, and he was the first one to get up on stage. He broke up a fight between people on a train. When he taught at the Marie Sharp Foundation, he wanted to break the stereotype that visual art students were somehow weaker than other departments. He got all the students to climb a mountain, beating out the more confident music and dance students. He empowered people. And his own work was courageous, big, confronting installations. After the cathedral was complete, he told me, "Don't tell Mom, but I want to create a giant bucking bronco." Wouldn't that be fabulous? He was courageous, and he had the courage to love and to express his feelings. There are a lot of people here who were taught how to love by Jimmy, who learned how to say I love you to their friends and family. A lot of men, especially of his generation, didn't have fathers who showered them with gushy, abundant love, and didn't have role models on how to love expressively and courageously. And Jimmy broke through those stoic lines and broke open people's hearts to feel. When I moved to California, that was a challenge to Dad's superpower, how to remain connected across a continent. But he did, picking us up or driving us to the airport, no matter what the hour was. He always had to do it himself. With Rocky, his first grandchild, when we visited, when Rocky was little, Dad built a 10-foot tall cardboard SpongeBob and set it up in the field in the snow. Like, this kid is gonna remember this. One of the most important things my dad said to me in passing when I was in my 40s, he said, you know, you will be so beautiful with gray hair. Which is an amazing thing for a father to tell their daughter, that he thinks she's beautiful and that in his eyes, even as she ages in a world that tells women otherwise, she will be even more so. Our parents' bedroom is in the center of our house, not off in a wing. And as children, Zach and I would squish into bed with our parents all the time. It's a queen-size bed. We call it the Betty or club bed. And Mom once said to Dad, do you think the bed should be smaller? Everything in our lives radiates from the closeness and cuddliness between our parents. A few years ago, there was a meme going around the internet where people would say to married men, you have two options. Option A, to stay with your wife for the rest of your life, or option B. And then the men would interrupt and say, B, I choose B. So Dad made a bright red A for our mom with the words painted on the side, to eternity. We have a number of people who will share stories. I know that we all have so many stories. And I'd like to invite up some of our close friends, Phil Friend, Eitan Kilchevsky, David Goldenberg, Rick Wastrom, Aaron Flynn, and Bob Marty, if you could all make your way up here. And while you're making your way up, Zach and I thought we might share a note we get so many notes, we've gotten so many notes. And so while you're coming up, we'll share one of the notes that we've gotten.
Thanks. One note, one of the many notes. This note was by Matt Gonzalez. Matt, can you, right there in the center. Matt, really special guy. He wrote this short message. Let me just gather myself 1 second.
Yeah.
You are the big brother I needed but never had. You are my mentor and my confidant and my very best friend. I think about you every day. I think about how you have changed my life in so many ways with your love and positivity. I know that I'm just one of so many. You are blessed with an aura of love and kindness. Your family is blessed with that gift as well. I love you with all my heart for all eternity. Your loving student, friend, and little brother, Matt. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Before I start, the family gave me permission to be a little bit colorful in Jimmy-type language. Hopefully no one takes offense. Jimmy was my closest friend. One of his special traits, as you've heard, was that he made each of us in the room today feel that way. We all had a special place in Jimmy world, and what a world it was. He was our Halley's Comet, a once-in-a-lifetime mysterious bright light that doesn't physically last forever, but is always remembered. James Bruce Grashow, JB to me, allowed us all to have a special place in his orbit. He taught us how to be a friend and what it meant to have a true relationship, to be dedicated to your family. He was an incredible role model. We first met at a card game about 20 years ago. I came home that night and told my wife, Jamie, that I met a very interesting character, that he called himself an oddtist, not an artist, that after every hand he was dealt, he repeated his favorite phrase that night, "I'm fucked, I'm so fucked." And he was right. He didn't win that night, or on very few occasions would he ever win. Jimmy called me the next day, and as a typical guy, it took me a few days to call back. I received a lecture from him that has stayed with me since that time. He said to me that if I'm going to invest in this relationship, in this friendship, then you have to do the same. And after that, we spoke every day for 20 plus years, regardless where we were or what our situation was. I didn't know JB from the art world. I didn't know him from Fire Island. I didn't know him from Reading or from New York City. However, the way he told stories was so illustrative and colorful details that I felt I was there with him. He would refer to me as the Grashow Rolodex, as I recalled different stories as though I was there. And part of my responsibility as a close friend was to keep him grounded as his career, thanks to having a full-time business manager over the last 10 years, his career skyrocketed. And we would talk about reaching the apex of his career when he had the exposition at the Met. So I reminded him of Mattatuck, where 7 people showed up for the Q&A and the showing of the Cardboard Bernini. It was a perfect bookend for him. Of course, that reminder was always followed by, "Fuck you." And then the elevation continued as Jimmy and the Demons, when he constantly bemoaned being followed by a film crew for a couple of years everywhere he went, and how he was a cottage industry, all the time enjoying every single moment of it. We were discussing some of the largest issues of the day, and we always made a point of it. Discussing which one of our friends had the worst brisket. Sorry, Lori, it wasn't you. And then phrases like "cover me," which I knew immediately to stand as a screen between the garbage and the guests so he could throw away the stuffed cabbage he didn't like that night. Sorry, Lori, that was you. And then I can still hear his voice as he called and said, "I have a great Talmudic question to ask. Will we ever see the Jets in a Super Bowl again?" We were both long-suffering Jet fans, always discussing who was the worst coach, worst draft pick, worst way they lost the game. Topic was endless, absolutely endless. The pain and disappointment was inevitable. Then there were stories when he told us that he painted the first food truck in New York City. We questioned that. And one of our friends, Steve, did some research and found photos of the Chow Chow truck in Brooklyn from the early 50s, painted by Jimmy. Incredible. Then there was the story of Francine of Wall Street, which he loved to retell. A large bosomed clerk on Wall Street in the late 60s that attracted such a following when she went out for lunch daily that her employer asked her to stay home. It was distracting. And Jimmy had to see for himself, so he went down to Wall Street to see. And sure enough, after researching it, it was a true story, complete with Jimmy including it on a Vogue magazine cover in 1970. It was no surprise that Jimmy was a bit IT challenged, and anyone that left a message on Jimmy's phone voicemail, as his voicemail requested, I'm sorry. He never personally retrieved it. No reason other than he had no idea how to retrieve that message. During our calls, he would constantly hit the mute button, or he would run out of charge, or he would leave the ringer off, a myriad of issues. And even when he hit the mute button, I could hear him. Guzzy, Guzzy, I can't hear him, Guzzy. My response was, I clearly can hear you, but Guzzy became known as the IT department. I knew to call the IT department to have things fixed. And so when I called the IT department, it was an easy answer for Guzzy. Oh, he did it again? Jimmy was the gift that kept on giving. The suffering Jet fan, Met fan, and my fellow awful food fanatic. Once, and you thought Banana Brazil was our low point, but it wasn't. Once he wanted me to try JK hot wieners. He was relentless. Phenomenal hot dogs. Telling me how fantastic it was. So I acquiesced, but the first thing he wanted to do was bring this houseplant over to the late Chris Durante's studio to have it fitted for a case. Of course, the plant was about 3 months overdue, but he had to drive, which was a whole nother experience. Constantly reminding him to watch the road, turn off his directional, endless. So we get into the parking lot after we were at Chris's, and we pull into JK's parking lot, and all I hear is, oh, fuck, I left the houseplant in the dumpster. So thankfully it was still there. We went back, retrieved it. It was still on the corner of the dumpster. And just one other time when we went to the Black Cat for lunch in Reading, always the phone in his possession. Always waiting for someone to call, or he's calling somebody. So we sit down at the table. He says, I have to go back to the house. I forgot my phone. And I pointed out it was in his pocket, in his shirt. And so he pulled it out and put it on the table. And I asked him, I said, does that have extraordinary range? And he looked perplexed. And I pointed out it was the cordless phone from the house. He called the weekdays during the summer months Jimmy World, when he had free range in Reading, leaving Fire Island on a Sunday night, fighting all the traffic to be able to wake up and go to the studio first thing Monday morning, of course in his underpants. It gave him complete space for him to percolate. He was happy with the fact that he did not have to shave or take showers for days on end, not make his cherished Betty. However, what he did was really miss Guzzy. And so just a couple of years ago, they found a way to keep close during Jimmy World. A fact that Jimmy said would kill Jimmy World with worlds colliding, as they installed a Ring camera in the house. Instead, it became cherished memories. Guzzy watching Jimmy in the studio. Guzzy watching Jimmy leave the house. Guzzy watching Jimmy come back into the house. And of course, all of Fire Island enjoying when Jimmy walked out of the house and peed on the front lawn. He did speak about how proud he was of Zoe and the life she made in California, the congregation that meant as much to Jimmy as it did to Zoe, where he tried to make every one of Zoe's Torah classes, and of course pronounced Torah properly so he wouldn't be corrected. He loved his 3 grandchildren from Zoe. We would talk about them in almost every conversation, thrilled that Canera used the studio for her latest cover while transforming it to a different place with his backdrops, so symbolic to him. He was so nervous about Rocky recently crossing the Great South Bay in a kayak, which revealed a few other stories, making sure that Rocky had safely landed on Fire Island, sending me the video, and then reveling in what a beautiful specimen Rocky had become. He was thrilled that Zimmer was coming to the Northeast for college, to spend more time with her and continue growing closer to her and watch her blossom into a brilliant, deep thinker that she is. He loved Zachary. He loved that Zachary was branching out on his own and starting his own business. He enjoyed Zach's sports and competitiveness, but namely how he was a family man that he was proud of. That with the great Nicole, they carried on traditions, lived together all under one roof in Fire Island, and were terrific parents. Gavin, he was so sorry that as a younger child he failed to catch you one day in the park and dropped you on your head. But that was only overshadowed by the bandsaw incident in the studio which was at the exact same level of your head when you ran into it during Thanksgiving. But mainly, Gavin Bopa was very jealous of your six-pack, something he could never have. And Nathaniel, your grandfather loved your individualism, your colorful, dramatic side, and was totally invested in your bracelet business. Similar to the birthday gift he gave me on my 65th, when he surprised me in Florida, a framed print that was already widely in circulation until I called him and asked why my angel cake said angle cake. No, it doesn't. Wait, oh, fuck, it does. I could go on with the great Scott and the great PJ. It took an initiation period, guys, to earn that title, and you both did. Jimmy, I'm grateful for our friendship. Wish we had gotten that DNA test to see if we really were brothers. And I'm sorry you weren't with us today. It was all about your favorite subject, Jimmy. So for the last time,
I think something is wrong with this microphone. I usually do not have an accent. I think it's a microphone. Jimmy was the only one of our friends, by the way, who never asked me to repeat something twice. Every one of our friends, what did you mean? What did you say? Jimmy always understood me. The Mark Twain Library is on the corner of Jimmy and Guzzi's home. And Mark Twain described the genius once. He said, genius elevates its possessor to ineffable spheres far above the vulgar world and fills his soul with regal contempt for the gross and sordid things of earth. I think Mark Twain must have known Jimmy, because this is exactly a description of it. And he was a genius. Years ago, one of his cardboard creations was left outside the gallery, I think inadvertently, and it was destroyed by the elements. Someone else, like me, would have gotten pissed off, and I would keep grudge for someone who did it for the rest of your life. But this was not Jimmy. Jimmy's genius came out, and for the next 4 years, he created this magnificent piece, the corrugated Bernini, with Neptune, with his trident, and riding a chariot, and surrounded by dolphins and fish and dragons and whatever was there. He traveled throughout the country, and then it came back to Ridgefield, to the museum. But it did not come back to be a permanent exhibit. Jimmy wanted it outside. He wanted to see how mosh goes back to mosh, how it's being destroyed again. I told him, as many others, I said, Jimmy, this is like a masterpiece. This is a timeless piece. You cannot let it happen. Jimmy felt that what actually he was doing was making it get back into the universe, integrate into the universe, and he was making it eternal. And for those of us who witnessed it, he was right. During one of his last hospitalizations, Jimmy drew a clock, kind of a Jimmy-esque clock, a little distorted. I think it had legs, it was running, but there were no hands on the clock. It was Jimmy's way of saying that time was running out. Jimmy was the compass who guided his friends, and he showed us how to tell time on a clock without hands. We used to meet periodically as we had to play cards. It was not the game we came for or the food. It was to be with Jimmy another evening, because as you heard, some profanities, but he really made it very memorable. And I'm telling all our friends who used to play with us, card players, put down your cards and more on the ace, the king of our hearts. And of course, his last masterpiece, and you all probably saw it, the cathedral with the demons around. And I think it's lively, but sadly, the demons around this cathedral of wood may have won actually the battle of evil over good. Jimmy's passing was too soon. We did not finish getting everything out of him, and there was so much more in him that we could have gotten. And from now on, I guess we will wonder what Jimmy would have said. I don't think we'll ever know the answer, and it really makes me sad. Jimmy and I used to talk a lot about our past. He used to talk about Brooklyn and the School of Art, Fire Island, and I spoke a little about my past. And he always used to end this discussion by saying, if there is ever war, I want you in my foxhole. I guess there was a man and he is no more. We were in his foxhole, but he lost the war. For Jimmy, I think, I'm not an art critic, but I think for Jimmy, the cardboard was more than just a cardboard. It was a story waiting to be told. And he reminded us with every monkey, every fish, every flower with a little building, that even the simplest material could be transformed into something beautiful. Jimmy is gone, but his art will continue forever. Teach us, speak to us, and make the world a little more beautiful. When Jimmy was 83, we had a small dinner to celebrate his birthday. We surprised him and we invited Zach and his family to attend. When they walked through the door, Jimmy, who could always say something, for about 2 minutes couldn't say anything. He was very, very emotional. I think for Jimmy, the family was above everything. With all his fame and all his creations, I think the family was above everything. He was a mensch. The dictionary describes mensch as, it's a Yiddish word, a person of integrity and honor. But I like what the humorist Leo Rosten said about a mensch. He said, it is someone to admire, to emulate, someone of noble character. Jimmy.
Good morning, all. Can anybody hear me? Yeah, too bad. Too bad. I'm David Goldenberg. I'm a physician, longtime friend of Jimmy. I became friends with him over several years. Our bond became strong because we were both creative types, though I was never as good as Jimmy. I want to say a word about collections. Some people collect bits and pieces of paper, and some people collect artwork. Look around you. Jimmy collected people. All of you. You're all part of the Jimmy collection. And Jimmy and I formed a club called the Whittle Boys, which was created to carve wood together, but quickly deteriorated to see who could tell the dirtiest limerick. His favorite was the one about Susan from Dallas. I won't go into details. We also had a competition to see who could tell the dirtiest campfire song. He knew some good ones. He always won the competition because when I heard Jimmy start to tell a story or a joke, I usually started laughing long before he started. All of you have heard him tell a story, know about that Jimmy cadence. and how he would break up the story and lots of colorful language. I want to make some other remarks that may seem a little bit weird. One of my interests is astronomy. I look at the night sky from time to time, and if you look up on a clear night, you can imagine the stars are arranged in patterns. The Big Dipper, the signs of the zodiac, Leo, Cygnus, etc., etc. Because the Earth turns, it will appear that the constellations and the stars rise in the east, while others set in the west. Earlier this week, a bright constellation, Jimmy's constellation, set in the west. But Jimmy's star was part of a larger constellation. Nearby were the stars Guzzy, his brother's star, his children's star, and his grandchildren's star, and so on. The ancient philosophers thought that the stars were points of light on the inside surface of a giant, great sphere. They thought that the constellations were bound together and related to each other. In fact, the constellations are unrelated to each other. The stars have nothing to do with each other, and the images that you see in the sky are an optical illusion, except in the case of Jimmy's constellation. The stars, all of us in Jimmy's constellation are bound together. If you were to ask Albert Einstein what bound the constellations together, he would have said gravity. But for this constellation, our constellation, Albert Einstein would have been wrong. In Jimmy's constellation, the binding force is love. Jimmy's love for Guzzy, her love for him, his love for his family, and his love for his friends. The ancient astronomers thought that the universe was perfect, unchanging, and eternal. They got that right. And remember, never forget that the constellations rise and set every night. They wheel across the sky endlessly. Next time you're out on a clear, moonless night, find the constellation Jimmy. It too is perfect, unchanging, and eternal. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Guzzy, Zoe, Zachary. I love you guys. So I'm Rick Wostrom, a neighbor and Jimmy's friend. My journey with the Grashows began 12 years ago when I found myself seated at a long, magnificent table in Jimmy's studio. There were 20 guests, but it felt intimate. Candelabras twinkling, monkeys swinging overhead, color, cardboard, and tools. It was extraordinary. Jimmy, being Jimmy, marched ceremoniously around the table, introducing each guest in a warm and personal way. When he got to me, he stood behind my chair, placed his hands on my shoulders, and boomed, "I don't know this guy, but I want to get to know him better." Little did I know this man would become my closest friend and literally change my life. It was tools that sparked our initial bond. I'm sort of a weekend warrior when it comes to woodworking and a do-it-yourself fix-it project guy. I immediately recognized the genius level of craftsmanship in every one of Jimmy's artistic endeavors and was extremely impressed by his talents, though somewhat amazed by the conditions under which he made his magic. I'm admittedly a bit of a neatnik, as you may know, which, needless to say, Jimmy was not. We quickly found reasons to collaborate, and the partnership flourished. I'd build a box. He painted it and turned it into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. He promised delivery to the Hamptons of an extraordinary 6-foot houseplant commission. I built the crate, and together with Jen and Guzzy, we excitedly road tripped to install it. We clamped and glued his illustrious woodcut for the rock and roll show at the Met. As he prepared to begin his epic journey with the cathedral, I was a kid in a candy store, researching carving blades and knives and designing a sawdust removal system for the studio. Clearly my idea. Jimmy could care less about the piles of sawdust, but he humored me. And I think Guzzy was thrilled. We schemed on the support system for Jesus' legs. Spoiler alert, he's got bones of steel, literally, engineered in the intricate brawn to connect the cathedral to Christ, and designed the nerve-wracking scheme to internally light the magnificent church, which, upon completion, resulted in Jimmy declaring triumphantly, "I think I'm going to go home, vomit, and take a nap." This may sound like a friendship based on practicality, but it quickly became so much more. I am finished by descent. We don't emote much. My wife Jen will tell you I'm very stoic. That is, I was. Like a piece of basswood in his loving hands, Jimmy not so subtly when was he subtle, brilliantly carved into my heart. Every bear hug, every scruffy wet kiss, every "I love you, man," every joke, every hysterical story poignantly chipped away at a shell I didn't even know I had. Revealing pure joy, pure joy. Jen noticed it early on, and my 2 grown sons did too. I smiled wider when I was with Jimmy. I laughed louder and longer when I was with Jimmy. There was a skip to my step I'd not experienced before because of Jimmy. I love and love life more because of Jimmy, truly. For years, a bad day turned into a good day, or a good day got better at 4:30 in the afternoon, because Jimmy called every single day, weekends included. I really miss the gift of these calls and will for the rest of my life. But I know that you, Guzzy, will brilliantly keep the unique treasure that is Jimmy alive for me, for Jen, and for our family. Your spunk and beauty are his unmatched spark and spirit. Thank goodness. Jimmy once said, "Rick Wostrom can fix anything." That is not true, but this is. Through a dozen years of irrepressible, inspirational friendship, Jimmy masterfully fixed this stoic thing. I'm a better man because of my best friend. Thanks, buddy. I love you.
There is a home on Fire Island, on Oneida Street, where Jimmy and Guzzy live, that is full of light and love and laughter. Come in, open the gate, pull up a chair and stay a while. And we did. There is a home on Oneida where we sing and dance and play music and games, where the sound of our voices and our laughter spill late into the night. There is a home where mermaids fly, fish swim, and generations of family names are painted on the wall. There is a home on Oneida Street where Jimmy and Guzzy live, where magic happens. On his last day on Fire Island, Jimmy asked me, "Do you hear that buzz?" On that night, he sat on the back deck, surrounded by family and friends who had gathered together to celebrate one another. We could hear the electric hum, the buzz of voices and laughter, sharing and caring for each other. He loved that sound because it represented the community that was so important to him. The buzz of love was everywhere. The sun is shining, the waves are crashing, the sky is a special shade of blue, and now we are on the beach. We are sitting in a tremendous circle of family and friends of all ages. Jimmy is whittling a piece of wood as he shapes our conversation with ideas both great and small, bright and beautiful, wise and wonderful.
Yeah, let's, we
Come
have it.
in, pull
No,
up a chair, join this circle, and stay a while. And we did. Jimmy was everyone's champion. Every idea he heard was tremendous and fantastic. He made us feel so grand. He was the spark that ignited our fire. So when someone suggested that we go to a fundraiser in Ocean Beach, Jimmy said, "Fantastic." And he proceeded to sculpt fabulous props from cardboard and paper. Seagulls, cigar hats, ray guns, Mardi Gras kings, waves, sheeps, clouds, and more. Jimmy gathered us together to paint his creations over drinks, food, and laughter. For many years, we marched to Ocean Beach with these spectacular props declaring, "Here we are, Ocean Bay Park." And Jimmy was the spark who united us. When Jimmy told a joke about bola bola bolognese, and the family suggested a cooking contest, he said, "Fantastic." This sparked an annual community event where everyone made and shared their favorite recipes at the Grashow home. When his son Zach said, "Wouldn't it be fun to have a local cornhole tournament on the beach?" Jimmy said, "Fantastic." He made a massive corn and placed it in the sand next to a giant hole. Jimmy then became our Don Cornholio. The tournament grew each year to include people that became new friends. And Jimmy was the spark that ignited and united the community. There was never a gathering where Jimmy did not make a speech expressing his love and gratitude. There was never a phone call when he didn't tell you that he loved you. The last time I saw Jimmy, he was lying on his bed in his room in Connecticut. "Come in," he said. "Stay a while." And I did. I laid down next to him on the bed and we looked out his great big picture window. We could see lush green trees and a vast blue sky. Looking out the window, Jimmy said, "You know, it really does go on and on and on." I know Jimmy is here now looking out at this community of friends and family, a community he built, a community he nurtured, a community he loved. And he is nodding and smiling at all of us because we are a living testament to his love, a love that goes on and on and on. Thank you.
Hello. Jimmy was a wizard. He could turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. I'm Bob Marty. Jimmy was my professor at Pratt Institute back in 1978. And we had all heard about Jimmy's drawing class. It was really legendary, and kids would speak about it with both trepidation and delight in equal measures. There was so much energy, crazy ideas, assignments, every week something new. You couldn't wait to go to class. And of course we were learning about drawing and art, but what we were really learning about was how to live a creative life, how to live as an artist, how to be an artist, how to challenge your fears, how to leap and hope the net would appear. And we were just kids, so we didn't really know how to trust that small, quiet voice inside us about expressing ourselves. And one day we came into class and Jimmy announced, today we're making drawings for Bill de Kooning. And we all were like, oh my God, Bill de Kooning, what? We drew and drew and drew and drew. And at the end, Jimmy made a huge pile of the drawings and tied them up with twine, old twine, and said, these are going to de Kooning. He was taking all of us from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Jimmy was our wizard. About a dozen years ago, my family and I moved to Reading, and Jimmy and I became close friends. And it was then that I realized he really was a wizard in so many ways. And watching him interact with his family with profound love, Guzzy and Zoe and Zachary and all his unbelievably talented grandkids, he made me a much better person and a really better dad. And he lifted up so many artists, many of whom are here tonight, who looked to him for some kind of affirmation. And that was me too. And during a very dark part of my life a few years ago, I turned to him for help. I didn't know where to go. And he said, I don't know what to tell you, Bob. But then, a minute later, he said, you know what? Go work in your studio. Making stuff brings the light and helps keep the darkness away. So I'm here right now today because of me, in many ways. And by the way, I found out 44 years later that those drawings that he tied up actually went to de Kooning. The wizard was at work. A year ago or so, the Granite Church hosted the unveiling of his incredible sculpture, The Cathedral, and it was a wonderful, unbelievably packed event, and Jimmy was grinning, and the town of Reading made this proclamation, and here's a brief part of it. In celebration of his towering achievement, The Cathedral, and his over 50 years of art making in the town of Reading, in the state of Connecticut, it is hereby declared that September 19, 2024 is Jimmy Grashow Day. And Jimmy's reputation as a printmaker, sculptor, and draftsman is recognized worldwide as perhaps his least known but most profound impact on the world has been his teachings of thousands and thousands of students throughout his long career. So on this day, September 19, 2024, now known as Jimmy Grashow Day, we hold up this beloved man, friend, teacher, artist, Jimmy Grashow, for all to appreciate near and far. And that was signed by the first selectman, Julia Pemberton of Reading. The last time I saw Jimmy was a few weeks ago. I told him I loved him, and he said, Bobby, he always called me Bobby, I love you too. And for some reason, we sang this song together. Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. So I want to thank Jimmy, and I will always love you. And I feel that glow right now thinking of you.
We'd like to invite up some of our family members to share some words. Rachel Grashow, Jeremy Brussel, Mark Grashow, Brad Epstein, and Scott Miles. And as they're working their way up to the stage, here is an excerpt from a card that we received from Kendall Meal. Kendall writes, the first time I walked into your studio, you showed me an empty woodblock. You gestured with excitement as you waved over this unspoken piece of pear and handed me a tool to make my mark. Some funky, jagged character with a tie and spiked hair emerged, past the shavings, and a few weeks later, he arrived in the mail, wearing ink to match his woodblock twin. He traveled from one studio to another, and now, whenever I spot him watching the room, a memory of pure enthusiasm for abundant possibilities hidden in a palm-sized canvas returns. It's a kind of magic, both rare and contagious, that you have planted along your entire path. It's one of the most inspiring things I've ever experienced. To share the joy of participating in art and the world is a gift as infinite as the second life of a cardboard box. It's unfucking believable.
Hi, my name is Rachel Grashow. I'm Jimmy's niece, and this is my brother, Xander. I'm going to read some words, and Alex is going to hold the tears for both of us. So one of the things I want to start with and say that the only good thing about Uncle Jimmy not being here with us is that we can finally lavish him with praise without any pushback or eye rolls. It feels impossible that Uncle Jimmy isn't with us anymore, just impossible. But as I mourn the loss of his wisdom and his jokes, the phone calls after having a few drinky winkies, I know in my bones that his love is not gone. The love he gave to Aunt Guzzy, most of all, to his children, his grandchildren, his brother, his extended family, his friends, his students, it will continue to nourish. It will continue to bloom, and in turn help others and other people and ideas to bloom. That love will still curl around Guzzy at night in bed and watch with pride at his children and grandchildren guide, teach, entertain, and care for others. I've heard it said that you only truly die when everyone who knew and loved you has also died. This is not true for Uncle Jimmy. Despite his fears, he's achieved more immortality. Long after all of us who love him have passed away, everyone who got the benefits of his advice, or his jokes, or his knowing looks, or his fist bumps, his art will still be here to awe and inspire others. It's an eternal legacy that's self-renewing. I can vouch for this personally. I grew up with a poster of a woodcut that he made that said "Extinct is forever." It was on Seinfeld. And it showed amazing, lovable animals alongside how many of them were left in the world. The poster was absolutely the origination of my environmentalism. I remember looking closely at it and thinking, what do you mean there are only a couple thousand pandas left? Or only a few hundred Siberian tigers? And the carrier pigeon and the dodo bird are just gone? My environmental activism was born at that moment. So it's not an exaggeration to say that Uncle Jimmy's talent and his love and his passion speak through my work in environmental health today. It's a comfort to be in the company of others who can say the exact same thing. We will miss him. And while we missed out on a few years with him, the reconnection with him, Aunt Guzzy, Zach, Zoe, and others, has been bliss, a revelation of what it means to have and be a family. So to Uncle Jimmy, we love you, we miss you, and we will do our best to continue your legacy, even though you never let us compliment you for it. Thanks.
Sorry. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far, through cardboard jungles and sea, not very shy and sad of eye, only of heart and solicitude, but very wise was he. To be brief, I share one recent memory. Two men sitting on a beach, carving and sanding little wooden fish. The older wise man, Jimmy, looked over to the younger man, me. Taking hold of my hand in his fist, waving the joined hands to and fro, he said, "I love this, and I love you, you know?" My man, with a smile, beautiful, this is just beautiful. Filled with warmth, I smiled back, and peace in my heart 10 times full. He's never been just an uncle to me, but a father figure more than one could be. Now forever immortalized by film, it did not need to be. For we are not gathered here today because each and every one of us love him, but because of his love for every one of you, forever alive in our hearts and dreams. A giant of a man was he, not by his towering height and large hands, but by his infectious heart, his mostly playful humor,
and in alluring embraces, a guardian angel to all he loved, a guardian angel indeed. In fact, I don't see Jesus carrying a cathedral, protecting his flock from evil. I see Jimmy carrying all of us, those he loves and watches over, protecting us from not just our demons, but telling his own demons, Jimmy will not succumb to their trickery, but rise in strength from love. Gifted in his craft, his unquestionable artistic impressions, losing the observer to an experience of the stories and lives of a living city, a cruise on the Queen Mary protected by lighthouse, dancing among giant figures, playing with monkeys and swimming with fish, singing with flowers like Alice in Wonderland, and losing oneself in detailed pencil drawings. Forever locked in my memory, like Hemingway at his typewriter, a black and white photograph of a man in his studio at his work table, concentrated through the magnified goggles, etching the smallest of concentrated details in wood, cardboard, and on paper. The ball game or music filling the air of background noise, a bowl of steel blades among brushes, paints, and glue, forever embedded, forever to be part of Jimmy's world. And then one day, a magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Never truly gone, never to be forgotten, forever immortalized, with love, Jimmy, the Nature Boy.
Hi. I'm Jimmy's brother. I have a speech. There's part of me that feels like no matter what the speech says, that I can never do my brother justice. I look out here and I know that you all know my brother. You know his heart, you know his soul, you know how much he cared about you. You know how much he made you better people, how funny he was. Just for a second, okay? Stand up if you love my brother, if you love Jimmy Grashow. Just stand up for a second. Who has this? Who creates all of this? You can sit down. In his lifetime, that so many people cherished James Grashow, cared about James Grashow, wanted to be next to James Grashow, wanted to call him every day. I mean, how lucky am I to have known him my whole life? How lucky am I? Here's my speech. It's supposed to be 3 minutes. I have no idea how long this is. Jimmy, Fran, and I grew up in Brooklyn, in the perfect family neighborhood. When it snowed, we sledded down Prospect Park Hills of what we call the triple-decker sandwich, stacked one on top of another. In the spring, the family got together and we picnicked in the Botanic Gardens in the cherry blossoms. Usually after the blossoms started to fall off the trees and it was like pink snow, and we went almost every year. Jimmy played every game there was in the streets. He played stickball, punchball, ring-a-levio, Johnny on the Pony. He was always out there. And usually when it got dark, we could hear my mother yelling out the window, "Jimmy!" And we came home. Our dad worked just 2 blocks away. So he always walked to work and he always walked back from work. It was always special that when my brother and I would be playing out in the street, and it happened to be the time that my father was walking home from work, and we would, you know, kind of run up to him, and he would keep walking, but he would start walking faster and faster. And so we struggled to keep up with him, that he was this great father with this great stride, and we just loved being next to him. I remember once when we were big and he was older, and we saw him walking ahead down the street. We ran up to him without him knowing it. I scooped him up under one arm, and my brother scooped him up under the other, and we ran down the street with him screaming and flailing. It was just a fabulous moment. He always told us that the favorite part of his day, when he would come back into the house when we were little kids, and he'd open the door, and we all came running to him, and he hugged us. He was a fabulous father to all of us. He used to wrestle with us, and he would get us in, you know, between his legs, and he used to call it the jaws of death. And I didn't write it in here, so I'm not going to say this, but occasionally he would fart. And he wouldn't let us go. My father talked to everybody. Every single person in the store, on the street, in the restaurant. There was no stopping him. He loved people. He loved to help people. And I think part of the treasure of our father is that he passed that into us. This is how my brother was. I don't think he thought anybody had an evil bone in their body, and all he wanted to do was help whoever he could. And I think that still lives in me, and I think some of it lives in all of you now, because of my brother. Fran was the eldest of the three of us, pretty and smart. I was the youngest, and I started swimming competitively, very successfully when I was 7. Jimmy was stuck in the middle child, and he really struggled to find his place, to get the attention that he certainly deserved. He was not the greatest student. He was dyslexic, he didn't do well in math, he hated language, he went to summer school often, but there was always his art. He always had his art. He was on the Howdy Doody contest at 6 and won the contest. We still have the video, the show, if anybody wants to see that. He always drew. He drew his whole life. When he was a little kid, he had all these sketch pads. He was always sketching something and doing something. We lived in the same room in Brooklyn for all 16 years. We shared one bed was next to the other. And when my sister got married and moved out, and she was only 20 when she got married, if I remember correctly, there was an empty bedroom. Jimmy didn't want a room. He wanted an art studio. So we stayed together, and he created this amazing art studio. Just like you've been to his studio here, that was his studio in Brooklyn. It had paintings and brushes and little bits of everything. And I just loved to go in the room and to look around and to see what was going on. He was much darker back then. He painted things. He painted a portrait of my father that my father hated because it was so dark. And I think the world was darker for him back then. But Guzzi changed all that. She made my brother happy. And his art turned happy and glorious and funny and silly. And she did all that. Jimmy knew life was finite from a very early age. He lost several of his friends when he was in his 20s, his really close friends, one in a car accident and other things. He lost them and he had loved them deeply. Our sister, Fran, she died when she was just 41. So that was a tremendous loss, certainly for my parents and for us. And he felt that. And he felt life, was on a string, and you had to enjoy it. He felt that life was like a ticking clock. His amazing Bernini fountain and the destruction of it to the elements was his testimony to the shortness of life and art. But he knew that above all else, what mattered in his life, and everyone has said this who has come up here, was love. That was what counted. Love. Love for your family, love for your friends. It was love. He treasured his family. He could not have loved Guzzi, Zoe, Zach, and his grandchildren any more than he possibly could. He was always proud of them. Literally, they were the air that he breathed. Literally the air. I want to thank Guzzi for giving Jimmy the freedom to be Jimmy. The documentary, Jimmy and the Demons, was a testimony to Jimmy's art, but even more, it was a testimony to the love between the two of them, and it was precious. And I think whoever has not, will see that movie, knows that the movie is a love story. Jimmy strongly believed that there was a creative spark in all of us. He often told the story about talking to first graders and asking them, who here is an artist? And everyone would raise their hand. But when he got to the fifth graders and asked, who here is an artist? They all pointed to one student in the room. So maybe all of us in this room can do one more thing for Jimmy. When you go home, go rescue a sheet of cardboard from somewhere. Okay, from the trash, from a room, find a piece of cardboard and find a sharp cutting tool, and it must be very, very sharp, okay? And find a quiet place and make something out of that cardboard. Carve something. It can be anything. It can be small, it can be big. Make something out of cardboard. And you know how Jimmy loved cardboard. And when you're done, hold that sculpture high over your head. Show Jimmy your creative spark is still alive and waiting for another Jimmy to shine a light on it. I love you, Jimmy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brad Epstein. I was blessed to have Jimmy for an uncle. He was and he is a titanic presence in my life, and he also kick-started my career in New York about 40 years ago, but more about that in a minute, because I really wanted to talk about Jimmy in the context of him being a creator and an activator. Jimmy said that being an artist is about making a mark, and there's so many ways to interpret that, right? He made marks on wood blocks, on paper, on canvas, and so many other places, but he also made a lasting mark on people. Last week, I had one of those monkeys, a monkey just like that right there. I had it in my apartment because I needed to ship it to my sister Lynn, his niece. And so I brought it down to the lobby, and people, adults and kids, they stopped and go, what is that? Is that a monkey? Is it made of cardboard? How does it stand up? And it was one of the ones that went on a tail, and I held it on my finger and go, oh my gosh! It was the reason I tell this story. It's just one in thousands of how Jimmy brought joy and wonder into the world. And when I see some of you later, those are the stories that I love being shared, and so many were shared today. So Jimmy did truly activate my career in New York. I had been working in a small ad agency in Orlando for about 2 years, and I called him up and I said, do you think I have the talent to make it in New York? And he told me something that I'll never forget. He said, Brad, when I was coming up, I knew that I had talent. But there were so many guys coming up with me that had so much more talent. But I knew something. I had something they didn't have. I had hustle. I knew that I could outwork anybody. And so this was the year 1984, and in those days, Jimmy was afraid to fly. Jimmy would take a train from New York to visit his parents in Miami, which is a 24-hour train, and we made a plan. I quit my job. I got on the train with him. He stopped in Orlando on the way back to New York. He helped me with my portfolio. And then when we got to New York, he got me my first job in New York at a friend's agency. It was a 3-month gig in a studio, and I was launched. Inspiration is a sharp tool Jimmy used to make marks on others. As you've heard from so many people, as a teacher in Pratt, in Colorado, he activated so many artists and so many artistic careers, including, my sister and his niece, Jana, who makes a living doing her art. And so Jimmy did also inspire us to put more love into this world, and I thought it'd be right to quote one beloved artist to honor another. Vincent van Gogh wrote, "I always think the best way to know God is to love many things." And Jimmy loved many things. He loved fiercely and he loved unabashedly. And like Zoe said, he had this superpower to project love. And I always adored the way he would say my name. Sometimes with a musical lilt, it would be Brad. And I'm glad you're laughing, and I want you to hold that thought in your head for a moment. I want you to think of all the times he might have seen you and said your name in that special Jimmy way, and hold on to that, because that was another way of him showing you that you were loved and you were seen. So, and above all, Jimmy's love for Guzzy. And the thing that's amazing about that love is that they tapped into a reservoir of love that was so deep, so strong that it could come out and nourish so many other people and build community. And if you're here today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I started with saying that Jimmy is a titanic presence in my life, and that's true because I could still hear him here, and I still feel him here. And the mark of great art is a mark that outlives the artist. The mark that Jimmy leaves through his body of work extends to our bodies. It resides in our hearts and our minds, and that's a legacy that will endure. Thank you.
In the beginning, God created. On one of his finest days, he fashioned Jimmy and entrusted him with a sacred charge. As I make you in my image, so shall you make worlds and universes fashioned from great imagination, utmost skill, and boundless love. From your soul will flow exquisite art. With your skilled hands, you will coax inert matter into holy, life-affirming form. Your work will awaken and uplift others, helping them glimpse the reasons I lovingly formed the heavens, the earth, and every living thing. Alongside Guzzy, the beloved life partner I will give you, you will build a family and the community rare in its beauty and devotion. This, above all else, shall be your crowning achievement. As I once commanded, let there be light. So I breathe into your heart a light that even the sun would behold in wonder. That light will burn with vigor and joy throughout your days on earth. And on the day I call you home, it will flare into a radiance that illuminates all of creation. I will grant you a special place in my kingdom, a heavenly studio filled with endless materials and keen tools, sharp tools, that you may continue to create to your heart's delight and so bring me eternal joy. Know that I grieve as well for taking you from those you love. I love you in return. I am sorry for the pain you endured these past months. I know you wrestled with me and sought answers. Now all those questions will be answered, and great abiding comfort will be yours. You have exceeded all my hopes and expectations beyond measure. I bless you and keep you. I make my face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. I lift up my countenance upon you and give you peace. Your life and the love you poured out of your beautiful soul will forever remain a blessing. Love you, peace.
We'd like to invite up Guzzy and Jimmy's grandchildren to come up. Rachmiel, Kinneret, Gavin, Zimra, and Nathaniel.
Wow, there's so many people here today. My name is Rachmiel Klein. Maybe everyone in this room knows me as Rocky. There's a very, very important word that I don't know if it's been said yet in this ceremony. I didn't know James Grashow or Jimmy Grashow as either of those two names. I invented the word Bopa, and I called him Bopa for my whole entire life, because I couldn't say the word grandpa when I was a kid, so I called him Bopa. Sometimes he would put the word the in front, because he was the Bopa. And he became Bopa to all five of us. I somehow, in my heart, felt like his time would be in this past week, in the period of the Jewish Torah reading cycle known as Nitzavim. And the reason why I felt like that was the case in my heart was because in Nitzavim it says, the Torah is not in some distant land. It's not far away. It's not across some river. It's among your people, and it's in your heart. And I've been thinking a lot about this dichotomy between distance and closeness. And the unfortunate thing about passing is it feels like distance, but Bopa will always be in my heart, very, very close. So I want to keep it relatively short, and I just want to share one story, which I'm thinking about right now, which in no way is meant to summarize everything about him, because a full, accurate summary should really, take 83 years. I always, ever since I was a little kid, had a weird fear of dead birds. When I would pass them on the street, I would tighten my muscles, and when I was a little kid, I would even cry when I saw one. It was just one of those irrational fears. And I don't know how long ago, maybe 7 years ago or so, I found a dead crow on the beach right near Oneida in Fire Island. And I got really scared, and that's the kind of thing that would not make me want to go to the beach. And Bopa said, "I'll take care of it." And I said, "Are you going to throw it away?" And he said, "No, I'm not going to throw it away. I don't believe that a bird deserves to go into a trash can. I'm going to bury it." And I was scared because I was like, well, I dig holes sometimes in the sand. I'm worried that I'm going to uncover it. And he said, I promise I will bury it in a place that you will never, ever find it. And I never found it. But he didn't believe that a bird deserved to go into the trash can. I don't know what else to say. That's Bopa. He was very special. That's it.
He was so special. I love Bopa. I love him with all my heart, and I just want to thank Bopa and Gagi, who's Guzzy, for just the magic they've put on my life and my whole family. And Bopa taught me what it means to be an artist, way beyond the physical creations he made. He was an artist in how he was a father and a grandfather and a friend, and how he loved. The love between Gagi and Bopa is so inspiring. It's the reason I call up PJ when I'm at the gate of an airport. It's the little things that I've learned from how they love each other that I hope to keep following. I have a song to sing that reminds me of Bopa. I actually discovered it a year ago and sent it to him. I was like, "This is so you," and he was like, "Yeah, I love that." It's called Bless the Telephone by Labi Sifre. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And it goes like this. It's nice to hear your voice again. I've waited all day long, even wrote a song for you. It's strange the way you make me feel. With just a word or two, I'd like to do the same for you. It's nice to hear you say hello, and how are things with you? I love you, but very soon it's time to go. An office job to do, while I'm here writing songs for you. Strange how a phone call can change your day, take you away, away from the feeling of being alone. Bless the telephone. It's nice the way you say my name, not very fast or slow, just soft and low, the same as when you tell me how you feel. I feel the same way too. I'm very much in love with you. I'm very much in love with you.
My Boba loved so much, calling me once every week without fail, and always reminding me how much he loved me. I loved how he said, "All right." I love the classic nod he gave while he raised his eyebrows in dramatic fashion. I love that whenever he was doing his cardboard things, his crack would be sticking out. The list goes on and on. I could have the longest list ever. I don't know. These little things will stay with me forever. He will stay with me forever. Thank you.
One of the things that a lot of my friends will tease me about, or that I think is very unique, is my favorite color is brown. And I was sitting in Beaupa's studio before I moved to college, and I was looking around, and I noticed all of the brown. Brown is a big part of my life, as weird as it sounds. Everything I wear, everything I love is brown. And I was looking in that studio, and I saw the floor and the cardboard just all over the place. And he has that beautiful statue of that heron, that brown heron, no color, but it doesn't need color. So much of his work doesn't need color. I really bonded with Beaupa, especially when I was younger, with art. Before he took me to the Norton Simon Museum, he did the same demonstration that my mom was talking about, where he drew two figures, one with lines and one with air breathing through. And every time I go to a museum, I think of that. I think of where the air is. I would sit outside of my house in Cushton with Beaupa, and he would arrange some fruits, and I would draw still life with him, and we would sit there. I sat on the beach woodcutting with him. I got my first woodcutting scratch, and I felt really, really awesome, and it was awesome. And my mom told me recently that they were, laying together, and he kind of abruptly said, Zimra made the right choice in regards of where I went to college. I'm going to UMass Amherst, and I've spent a lot of time, there's a big pond there. I've spent a lot of time on that pond, and there's a lot of brown. There's a lot of brown bushes, and maybe that's why I love it so much, but there's also a heron that I see every day that comes very close to me and just sits there. And Beaupa is my life. He's made my life. I mean, he's made me love that color, and he's made me love nature, and he's just made me feel very comfortable in my choices. And I sit at that pond every day, and I think about him, and I know he's gonna stay with me in my entire college experience, and especially at that pond.
I think there are so many stories that I can share about my Beaupa, but one that's very special to me is When I created my bracelet business, he obviously wanted a bracelet. So I made him a blue and green bracelet, and I gave it to him. And every single time I went to see him, he pushed up his wrist like this and showed me, and he was like, "This is yours." And it just meant so much to me, and you can really see that love. And I just wanted to say, I love you, Bopa.
I gotta fight through this. Just bear with me. The start is hard, but I gotta make it through it, so. I've thought about this moment for many years. Perhaps that's normal. Imagining the possibilities of him not being here and what it might say today. It's almost always tears. It's rarely words, so there's no preparation. It's almost impossible to figure out how to describe him and all this. I'm blessed. I want to tell stories, but in this moment, a story doesn't feel like enough. The stories are countless. Many will be shared for a long, long time. As most here know, only a few can tell a story like he could. Amazing. I had a front row seat to unimaginable talent, and now I'm trying to understand why it all had to stop. It's complicated for me. I wish I could have seen the world like he did, just for a few minutes. Perhaps that would have helped on some levels of understanding. He offered, just a pause. He offered unconditional love. Many of you have heard his voicemails. Many of you have countless of them stored, just like me. For the most part, they simply say, "No need to call me back, just wanted to tell you that I love you." To be loved like that by your best friend, your dad, is the warmest feeling and will be forever lasting. People are so incredibly moved by him and, of course, his work. When people saw me or see me, the lead question is typically, how does it feel? Or how was it growing up in that household with him? Over time, I answered the questions a million different ways. I think the short answer is, if you really know him, my upbringing was probably exactly how you think it could be, or how you think it was. It was amazing in every possible way. He was so smart, incredible work ethic, perfect moral compass. Outside of spelling, he was good at everything. He was good at everything. Everything he touched became better. He was the perfect dad. I'm so lucky that of all the people that stepped foot on this world, I was one of only two who could call him dad. Just us. He was proud of me. He said it all the time, and that felt so good. I wanted to share everything with him. He was always there for me, always. He was so proud of his entire family and his friends. He apologized a million times for making me a Jets fan. A million times. And I don't know why I became one. I don't know why I like them so much. It doesn't make sense at all. I think it's a blessing right now that they're probably losing by 30 points. I have no idea, but at least he spared me from watching the game today. He played basketball well into his 50s. He had an unstoppable hook shot. Waking up with him Sunday mornings to go play ball with him was one of just a million experiences that I had and I'll always cherish. He was the coach that offered the perfect combo of wanting to win and ensuring everyone got the right opportunity and had fun. He was present in every possible way and was there if needed without a second thought. I will tell one story. A few years back, I had a freak leg injury. I had a few of those in my life, actually. But this was more recent. I was near Buffalo, New York. Without hesitation, and my dad was 80 at the time, maybe 79. He drove 7 hours to get me. And for some reason, I wasn't able to get on a plane because of the injury. I just needed to get back home. For some reason, rather than pick me up from the hotel, he parked probably 100 yards away. Instead of I was just waiting right in front of the hotel. But he could have just pulled right up. But instead, he found a parking spot really, really far away. He got out of the car and started yelling my name. And I was hurt, and I needed him. I needed him badly. I needed him. I needed him then. I often need him. When he yelled my name, I wept. Wasn't prepared for it, like I am now. I can hear him clearly yelling my name. And I pray I'll always hear it. It's hard to read through my tears, so hold on one second. Over the past months, weeks, and especially days, I often think about the fact that he never had a chance to be old. Maybe old just wasn't his style. I was talking to Phil about him being old, and I think Phil was like, he was never going to be old, and he wasn't. But I still feel like it was robbed. I still feel like he should have had the chance to be old. He was so smart, all the way to the end, and perhaps that contributed to how hard this is. He was never old. His mind was young and still bursting with ideas, and his hands wanted to go forever. He was taken way too soon. His presence is everywhere. I walk around his studio or property in Reading. He is everywhere. It's overwhelming, and his work continues to amaze, finding new gems at every turn. Beyond his love for this community, family, and countless friends, he was an artist. When anyone asked me about him and his work, I'd always say, he's the best artist in the world. I know it sounded a little strange saying that, but how else do I describe what he does? And to me, he was the best artist in the world, and I think he is. He's incredible. And then I would try the difficult task to explain what he did, and then probably I'd lose people when I'm trying to describe it. But I pray he's in a place where he can continue to create and always finish what he starts. He loved life so much. We miss him beyond. I love you, Dad. Thank you.
A great sage, Dad, once said that when you see mistakes or inconsistencies in art, they're really fingerprints of the creator. And Jimmy's fingerprints, evidence of his influence and shaping, are everywhere in all of us. What an honor to be shaped by his hands, hands that a magazine once thought were too cut up and rough looking to appear in their photo shoot of his work. They wanted to bring in a hand model, but he refused. It had to be his own hands. It had to be true. Mom always talks about his warm hands. A great Jewish sage, Dad, used to say that the greatest word in the English language is landed. And now Dad's landed. Thank you, God, for lending him to us. We are so grateful. Please supply him with lots of raw material in Eden so that he can build a world for us when it's our turn to join him. Thank you, Dad, for activating the space. Thank you for lines that breathe. Thank you for giving access to your innermost self so generously. Thank you for scooping the ants to take outside because you didn't want to kill them in the studio. Thank you for picking us up from school with a pickup truck loaded with cardboardosauruses or a car with papier-mâché arms and legs sticking out of the trunk. Thank you for turning our bunk bed into a tree, for making the best Halloween monsters, for building sets for our birthday parties, for Thanksgiving, for Pesach, for shaping meatloaf into hearts on Valentine's Day. Thank you for taking us outside for meteor showers. Thank you for brilliance and beauty. Thank you for always making time. Thank you for loving us big, fat, much. We love you. We love you. We are going to turn in our programs now to our El Malei Rachamim prayer. And I invite you to please rise.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei Hashchina, B'malat Kedoshim Torim, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת יעקב בן ישראל שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן מנוחתו ברחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור ביצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח על משכבו בשלום ונאמר אמן.
We remain standing and read together. God, who is full of mercy and dwells on high, provide a true rest on the wings of the divine presence amongst the holy and pure ones who shine as brightly as the brilliance of the sky to the soul of James Grashow, who has gone on to his eternity. The Garden of Eden will be his resting place. We beseech the merciful one to shade him forever with divine wings and to bind his soul up in the bonds of life. The Lord is his inheritance, and rest in peace. Amen. We continue on the next page with our mourner's Kaddish, and we read together. And I just want to say a quick word about the Kaddish. The Kaddish is a difficult prayer if you're dyslexic, and it's a really important prayer. And so my dad asked me to transcribe it in such a way that would be easier for him, and he said that his one biggest complaint in synagogue was that people read the Kaddish too fast. It was really hard to read it. The words get jumbled. So we're going to read it nice and slow and deliberately as we remember my dad, our dad. Yit kadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba b'alma divra hirute v'amlik malchute b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudashah b'rihu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tu shbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Amen. At the bottom of that page, the bold is Oseh shalom. You may be seated. We would like to join in singing those words. We move from sharing stories, from mourning, from the silence of vaulting all the truths into the chamber of our hearts, to singing and celebrating this voyage and this light. And so I'd like to invite all the grandchildren to join around the podium as we join together for Oseh Shalom. And I encourage you to put your arms around each other as we join in this final prayer.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We're just going to close with a few thank yous. We want to thank all of those who helped make this memorial event happen. George Avedon for managing the Zoom, Brian Fish for the tech, Brian O'Reilly for the gorgeous program, Alice Smith for the flowers, Betsy Higgins and Ashley Paltoff from the Playhouse, the ushers, Carrie Kolowitz, Jill Barberi, Suzanne Kramer, Robin Mizrahi, Lori Kilchewski, Michelle Tenenbaum, and Claudia Coopersmith. Thank you to Jen Wastrom and to Rick Wastrom. Thank you to both the Wastroms for incredible management of this day and so much more. And there are so many others who have helped in countless ways, but most of all, we want to thank our mom. We want to thank our mom. You have been the most extraordinary mother and life partner and soulmate, the way you cared for Dad all these months, the way you bring so much community together, the way you open your home and your heart to everyone. You are amazing, and we all love you. We want to invite everyone to join us at 14 Diamond Hill Road. The address is in the program. Please, when the service ends, do not linger here. There will be plenty of time to gather and to share stories at the house. And finally, we want to close with our father's own words from this past June when he received the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County Award for the Artist of the Year. We want to close with hearing his own words speaking.
I want to tell you, it's not my first award. When I was little, I was on the How You Doody show. And that was my hat to little Jimmy. I want to give him a high five and say, we did it. We spent a lifetime. We spent a lifetime doing the thing that we love. And what an incredible blessing. I humbly, you know what I mean? And with gratitude, do everything except this order, whatever it is.
What a blessing.
What a blessing.
What a blessing. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you this afternoon. Please join us.